Our next project is going to be making custom papers, and what this is a tablet of an acid-free paper that works with acrylic paints. And what I did is I base coated it with light Hauser green, and then used a real watery mix of dark Hauser green over the top of it, brushed it all over, and then splattered it with alcohol. So it gives all these little circles, so it gives you this really interesting background. And then once that was dry, I repeated the process with a real watery black, and again splattered it with the alcohol and let that dry. Then I applied a coat of a matte varnish so that when I'm stamping, if I make a mistake or I do something I don't like, I can just take a wet paper towel or a wet wipe and wipe that right back off again. And then that's not a problem. So that you haven't gone to all of this work and then made a mistake and wasted it all. So on this project, I'm going to use the dahlia to create a background. So the papers you could use for a scrapbook page, you could use them on a card. The other thing you can do is use them, do this technique and stamp a mat that's going into a frame. So that this could be, you know, your design work, and then put some real simple design in the center, or even use this as your mat with all this other design work going on, and then just simply stamp the dahlia on white cardstock and leave it real plain and simple with the black and white image. And that's real graphic, and that's very in at the moment. And I'm actually going to reuse one of the sponges that I used earlier. Now that this is dry, I can just use a pair of scissors and cut this off and throw it away, but I can still reuse my sponge. So I can usually get at least 2 uses out of a sponge, sometimes 3 depending on how far I have to cut it to get the other paint off. So I'm going to dip into the black, tap off the excess on my palette. Again, you want to be able to see the texture of the sponge there and not just have globs of paint. And then I'm going to work from the center of the stamp outward. Okay, so let me go clean this off and we'll do the next step. Alright, so we've put in the dahlias in the black for the background, and now we're going to do them in light Hauser green, and these are going to be more of our focal points. Okay, our next step, I'm going to use the scroll piece that comes in the set, and I'm going to add this anywhere I have a blank spot that I want to fill in. So I have a little spot here, and what I usually do is I do it in black first, and then I'm going to come back, and right next to that image I'm going to do it again in green, so the black acts almost like a little shadow. And usually what I do is I put it in the exact same spot that I had it before, and then I just shift it a little bit. And actually I see one more spot right there I'm just going to put. Okay, see? This is a good, actually, example. Because I've already got that varnished, I can come back with my wet wipe, and I'm just going to clean that right off. So it's not a big deal there. See? Alright, so the next step is I'm going to come back in and I'm just going to highlight the tips of the dahlias using a fuchsia color just to brighten up the paper. And you can either leave it just like this, I think it's pretty just like this, or we're going to add some color in there. Okay. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to place the highlights on the dahlia. And so what I do is I just float a little highlight on the tip of each of these petals. And I'm going to work from the outside in so that I'm not painting over something that I just did. Now, in the center of the dahlia, it gets a little tricky. And actually, at this point right here, the petals actually turn inward instead of outward. So you need to reverse the way that you're highlighting. Okay, so I'm going to keep working.